and welcome to those of you who are joining us on the line. You've joined the Verint Experience Management webinar, Listen and Act in the New Now, Best Practices for the Long Term. This is a webinar formerly known as 4 Actions to Take in This Moment, so don't panic if you were expecting a slightly different title. We just adjust it to better reflect what we're going to be talking about. Basically, we decided this was going to provide a lot of value to you, our audience. So we'll begin in just a couple minutes. First, just want to walk you through what you're looking at with our webinar platform. So hopefully you'll have noticed that our webcams are on today more than any day. I think it's important to stay connected in a very visual sense. So you'll be able to see us as we just talk with each other about everything we're going to be chatting through today. So next you'll see the slides, and then you will see our presenters, Eli and Dorothy. And my name is Ellen Schwartz, which I think I forgot to say. Along the bottom row, you've got our resource panel, which has a couple of links to blog posts that are relevant to today's topic, as well as today's slides. And if you are having any issues with Google Chrome not letting you access Flash, there is a link there to help you turn that on as well. Next across, you've got our Q&A box. Send your questions in there as you have them. So I'll try to field questions live to Eli and Dorothy as they come in. That way they're answered in context. But we should also have plenty of time at the end for some Q&A if we don't get to your question then. And then finally, you can contact us anytime if there's something you want to go a bit more in depth about that we didn't cover here, or just something specific about your solution, your Verint solution that you've got. Be sure to send us a note in through there, or always, of course, you can reach out to your account team. So we're just about a minute past the hour, and I do know that sometimes, especially now, bandwidth is a bit of a tricky issue, so we're going to give everybody just a minute or so to get set up, get settled. So at the moment, I just wanted to say hello again to you, Dorothy, and to you, Eli, my co-hosts and my co-workers here at Verint, and give you a chance to really quickly introduce yourselves. So I want to know, because we're all now remote workers, so where are you joining us from the world? What do you do at Verint? And also, where in your house are you right now? So Eli, why don't you kick us off?
Sure. So thanks, Ellen. Eli Grant, Regional Vice President of our public sector business. I help to oversee and work closely with our teams that support all of our public sector clients, which is a pretty significant portion of that is the federal government. So I am out of St. Louis, Missouri, and I am currently in the basement. We were talking this morning when we were getting set up about thunderstorms. If you hear thunder, it could be the 2 kids running around upstairs as opposed to anything that's going on outside with the weather. So love the human element now of doing business and seeing everybody in the real world. So thanks for everybody joining, and I'll pass it over to Dorothy.
Thanks, Eli. Thanks, Ellen. Hi, I'm Dorothy Cooper. I'm a customer success manager here at Verint, and I work with my clients on a day-to-day basis, working through strategies and value-add situations. I'm working from home, and I have been for a very long time, so this is not new for me. I've been working from home for around 10 years now. I'm working in a home office by my doors to the garden, and I live in Toronto, Canada. So hi, everybody. If you hear oot and a boot and a, then yeah, that's me.
I've caught a couple of sorries as well from you as we've been rehearsing.
Might slip in, Ellen, yeah.
That's right. So great to have both of you here. I know you're wonderful subject matter experts in all things experience management, VOC. Again, my name's Ellen Schwartz. I'm joining you from Kansas City, Missouri, so just the opposite side of the state from you, Eli. I am working from my kitchen. I just moved house right in time to quarantine, so I'm still figuring out kind of what all is behind me. And if you hear any thumping from me, that would be my coworker, who is also my husband, upstairs from me. So hopefully very few thumpings. Hopefully everyone feels a little bit more like we're all in the same boat. I think we're ready to begin. We've got lots of people joining us here, so hopefully, bring in, like I said before, if you've got questions, send those in as you have them. So I'm going to go ahead and kick us off. So hello again, and welcome to this Verint webinar, Listen and Act in the New Now, Best Practices for the Long Term. So today we're going to discuss 4 actions that your customer experience programs can start to implement right now in order to support your audience and your employees through what is truly an unprecedented moment, both I think in world history, but also just for listening. So don't know that I need to remind anyone, COVID-19 is here. It's throwing uncertainty at us every day, every hour sometimes. But we here at Verint still believe that staying aware of and responding to your customer and your employee needs is vital. And because of that, we're keeping our pulse on what's happening on the internet. Lots of responses to COVID-19 and getting the word out. So what you see here on your screen is AT&T's COVID-19 response page. So I guess I should back up and say one of the things we've really seen as we look at all of these sites in total is that there's a lot of really good grit and community forming and a lot of transparency that's emerging like we've never seen before. So again, AT&T here have got their COVID-19 response page up. Who would have ever guessed 2 weeks ago that we could find a way to be more reliant on our internet and our devices? But here we are, and AT&T is communicating how exactly they're making sure that our service is up, what happens if it's not, etc. In a similar vein, moving on to our next example, which is DTE Energy. I wanted to call this out because to me it's a huge landing page. It's full of lots of information, and they're being very clear and very concise about what happens if your power goes out. Like we're all in this now of social distancing. So if my power goes out and someone needs to come into my house, that is suddenly a much different thought process than it was 3 weeks ago. But they've explained everything, not only what you as a consumer can expect, but what their employees can do and how they're protecting and taking care of their employees as well. So it really is just one huge comprehensive digital hub. And finally, in a slightly lighter vein, Vera Bradley, a brand which is kind of allowed to be a bit more casual than the first two that we just talked about. They're working from home. We're working from home. We're all in this together. You can see them with their coffees and their puppies and their kids. We're all here together. So one final website that I think we should call out, I think we'd be amiss not to, is the CDC. They're weathering the storm as a source of truth. And their digital resources are really, really working front and center. Their coronavirus information into this one digital hub. It's clear, it's concise, it's as up to date as they are able to be. My personal experience with COVID-19 is that I was traveling in Europe when everything really went exponential, and I was just trying to get the information that I needed quickly and to understand what my return home looks like. And the CDC's website, it was available digitally, it's available on my mobile. It was clear where I needed to go for my travel information specifically, and it's what I needed. So it really exemplifies this framework that we're going to be talking about today, which is hopefully going to help you understand and meet these shifting expectations that's happening both for your audience and your employees. So by calibrating your listening and your response efforts, you can do that using a lot of tools that you already have. So you can see here on this slide, these are the 3 points, 3 recommendations that we've got for you today. So amplifying your digital resources, connecting your listening, and then also being transparent and sharing often. And then kind of the 4th overlay to that is your employees are involved in all 3 of these pillars, if you will. So with that, I'm going to hand this over to Dorothy. I know you've got this first section for us as one of our subject matter experts. So
thanks, Ellen. Thanks for teeing me up. Hi, everybody, and welcome. Thanks for spending some time with us today. The first section and sort of pillar that we wanted to highlight and discuss is amplifying your digital resources. All of you on this call have customer experience solutions, voice of customer solutions running. That's why you're on this call. That's why you're working with Verint. You're collecting data from customers on various channels. Times are different now. So what used to be the norm isn't anymore. We're caused to shift our mindset and where we collect, how we collect, and really, for example, stores are closing, branches are closing. So a lot of those touch points for clients where they could go and ask questions, get information, those resources aren't available anymore. Contact centers are inundated with calls from customers that are anxious and panicked about, what's happening with their money, with their mortgage, with, supplies that they need for on a day-to-day basis. So long wait times in customer centers for call centers. So what's the best way to have your customers get the information that they need in real time? Really, it's your digital resources. You need to drive your customers, your digital website, your mobile sites. Those are the links to your customers. And that's how, what we're here to say today is really amplify those digital resources. So think about creating a hub if you haven't already. And Ellen touched on this with DTE, and we'll show some examples, but create a hub for your customers, drive your customers to this hub. Let them self-serve their questions by finding answers on a knowledge page or pages where your executives can maybe write some messages to your customers, where some policy changes can be outlined for people to really quickly read and understand what's happening. You might have some offers for customers during this COVID-19 time. And maybe for those that still have stores and essential outlets open, what are the new store hours? So these may sound like simple questions, but you don't want your call center fielding these types of questions. Direct your customers to the hub where they could self-serve. Think about all the listening posts you have. So where are you currently listening? You're running surveys, you've got emails, thank you pages post-submission of these surveys. You've got invites, you're prompting your customers to answer questions post-visit. Think about that real estate and where can you add appropriate messaging? What are some key messages that you may want to add and highlight through some of these existing listening posts? A really great area, I think, to maybe over communicate, but to communicate with your customers while they're wanting to communicate to you. And then looking at, call center reduction. So a lot of call centers are laying off staff. They can't keep everyone in one big room. People are working from home. Stores, as we mentioned, and branches are closing. So some of those touch points for customers and maybe where you were collecting feedback aren't available anymore. So how do you fill the gap for that? How do you fill the gap for some of that missing data? And not only fill the gap, but maybe look at areas that you weren't collecting in before, but you might want to start collecting now, given the scenario that we're in with the pandemic. So start to look at additional areas to gather information and feedback. And then while you're doing that, because you haven't been monitoring that touch point before or that listening post, add, text analytics, make sure that you're monitoring this new touch point on a regular basis. So you're mining the data that's coming through because it's going to be valuable. And then finally, leveraging your internal digital channels for your employees. We touched on that. Ellen touched on that. Many are working from home for the first time. Many are anxious. They're feeling disconnected. They're lonely. You want to communicate changes to your employees and messaging, but you also want to listen to your employees. They're going to be a plethora of really good information, not only about how they're feeling, but from what they're hearing from customers. Some of them are still the first touch point for customers. So you want them to have a channel to offer you as the organization and company feedback. So let's quickly take a look at a few examples. We looked at or touched on DTE. They've done a really good job of leveraging digital and their digital resource channels to manage client expectations. So again, COVID-19 pandemic, every day it's a new ball game. We don't know when we wake up in the morning, what's going to hit us again. So they want to keep their customers less anxious, provide them as much information as they can, and again, keep them out of the call center. You land on the DTE page, there's a red banner at the top that says, hey, we're going to keep the public safe. We're going to keep services running. If you need further information, click through, and lo and behold, you land on a hub. You land on a knowledge center page that answers all kinds of great questions. Really great example of how to message and work with your digital channels to message important information to your clients. Another one that we don't have listed here, but I think is a good example, and you can take a look, is Expedia. Boy, I can't imagine what they're going through right now with people wanting to change flights, cancel flights, get their money back for, vacations and things that never did happen or may not happen. They again have a banner at the very top, and they also use opt-in feedback. So their comment card has messaging and a direct link to a hub page as well for further information. So again, use the resources and the real estate and the digital channels that you have. We talked a bit about in the first slide about messaging where appropriate, whether that's, messaging from your executives, but messaging to your customers. In this instance, they're leaving you feedback. They want to communicate with you. Leave them a call to action about store hours. Those have changed. Let them know that if they go to the store at 9 a.m., it's not going to be open. Give them a link to click on again to get to a hub. And also, as you're intercepting them during their experience on your site, and you're wanting to hear about their experience in that moment, make it personal. Humanize the call to action. Add a how can we help you? Let them know that you're listening, not just to get brand awareness studies done and some action items checked off your list, but that you really care and you want to know what their struggles are. So ask the question, how can we help? And, the benefits obviously are, staring right at us. Using your digital channels really is immediate access, ongoing 24/7 access to customers and employees. To listen, most important, to listen to what they have to say to you, but also to communicate to them, communicate your messaging to them, and then manage expectations. If there's delays in anything, let them know. And I think that will go a long way to keeping everybody less anxious.
So Dorothy, can I jump in here and talk about, in terms of, I think, amplifying your digital resources? I think one of the things we have to remember in general is, I think too often we look at surveys or surveying tools, whether it be a random intercept survey or a opt-in survey, as a means for us to capture and gather feedback from our customers. But I think especially now we need to understand it's also a tool to communicate to customers and help them manage expectations, potentially redirect them. And it all may be based off of, a direct response within those surveys. So I think many of our clients are familiar with the concept of smart thank you pages. We have other names for them at times, but smart thank you page is at the end of a survey, we say thank you for taking the survey. But we also have the ability to have an additional message within that thank you page that's triggered by logic or an answer to a question. So if a visitor, if a customer, when we ask them, did you accomplish your task today? If they say no, we've got the ability to say, sorry, it looks like you didn't accomplish everything you needed to do today. Please let us know what else we can do to help you. If they, if you ask the question, were you looking for specific information as it relates to this, which in today's world could be directly related to COVID-19, and they say no, you might provide them with a resource or a link that redirects them to that hub or to a page within the site that a number of people are looking for. Hopefully not having trouble, but once again, we can use that survey to potentially redirect and help manage expectations and improve customer experience right there in the moment.
Exactly. That's great. Use the resources available. Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. So, let's talk about connecting your listening and the shift listening to understanding immediate needs. This section for me is all about reassessing your strategy as it relates to CX, as it relates to voice of customer, as it relates to experience management. We've got to start by asking ourselves, do we continue to do what we've been doing, or do we need to modify and adjust and reassess what our objectives are as it relates to the experience for our customers, for our visitors? Have KPIs shifted? What is the focus? So it starts with that overarching question. And as you start to answer that question internally, there's some things we want you to consider or think about, such as, sampling logic and segmentation efforts. Where do we need to be listening? How do we need to be listening? We talked a little bit about two different types of measurement tools for capturing insight, one being random intercept. Dorothy also talked about opt-in. I'm gonna tee Dorothy up here to talk about opt-in and this concept of sampling logic and segmentation efforts in opt-in surveying, because I think it's a little different than simply having sampling parameter changes based on when the invite goes up. So Dorothy, talk a little bit about how opt-in measurement is kind of changing today and what we need to be thinking about.
Thanks, Eli. Yeah, for some of you out there, you traditionally may not have used the opt-in feedback capabilities through Verint, and it may seem like a scary concept for you. Traditionally, opt-in feedback best practices are always on, always listening. So you stand up an opt-in feedback tab, an inline link, as I mentioned previously, and you have it running across your site on all pages with the intent of listening to your clients wherever they are on the site, especially through areas where they're trying to self-serve, like a My Account page or a checkout page, and you're collecting feedback and gaining valuable insights from that. If that sounds a little daunting, maybe the way to look at it is, add your opt-in feedback during this, COVID-19 situation, because you really want to listen to your customers in critical touch points. So maybe you just add, a feedback opt-in across, again, your checkout funnels, your My Account pages. So areas that are critical to your business, but critical to your customers. And then start to look at that data. And when you're talking about sampling and, how many comments do you need to make it valid or to action it? I mean, years and years ago, there was a client who got a comment from a customer. They were grocery shopping, and there was a dumpster, just around the corner from the parking lot, and it was covered in rats and just garbage hanging out and everything. And they commented on it. And, do you need 10 comments about rats in a dumpster, or do you just need one to act on it? So you really start to evaluate your comments and what your customers are saying in terms of their immediate needs. And you look at it a lot differently. So don't be afraid of opt-in. It can be your friend and really give you some great insights, especially during this time.
Yeah, and I think more than anything, you might also say we need to be strategic with our measurement approach. And we need to understand, especially from an opt-in standpoint, maybe it's not site-wide. Maybe it's now just looking at very crucial pages with specific information or with important processes. So we potentially need to look at scaling back maybe. If we talk about the focus once again strategically, what are we trying to do? What are we trying to prioritize? Ask yourself, is brand measurement the most important thing right now? Or should it be looking at more of opportunities, once again, how we can identify opportunities to improve the experience, low-hanging fruit? How do we make a change today? Not how do we assess the brand in times it's probably not a great time to evaluate necessarily the brand, given just the dynamics and the fluid situations that we're facing with COVID-19. So in addition to that, consider your sampling. In opt-in, it might be pulling surveys down from specific pages. If you're doing random sampling, it might be reducing those sampling sizes. We've got a number of clients. One client in the month of January for desktop and mobile surveys had 1,000 responses. This month to date, they have over 140,000 responses. And that's sampling 20% of visitors to the site that see 3 or more pages. So it's not like it was turned up to 100. That's probably more data than you're ready to act on. And to Dorothy's point, we don't need 140,000 people telling us the same thing. We might only need a small group. If you're familiar with the predictive analytics component and of our model and how we measure, you also probably know or have heard, we only need 300 completes to really have insight and to move forward and understand what the potential impact is. So consider reducing those sampling, consider pulling down potentially some of those opt-in. At the same time, you might say, need more opt-in. We need to focus less on brand, but we need to focus less on overall journey across our digital products. We need opt-in, and we need to stand up opt-in as it relates to these very important topic, concept, content, or processes. And once again, we can use opt-in on these very important sections of the digital experience to help manage expectations, open form, direct. So, and a strategically how we're measuring, we understand if
Eli,
or program needs have changed. Yeah.
Your sound is starting to cut out quite a bit. I didn't know if you might be able to switch to your speakerphone on your laptop in case it's your headphones.
Okay, sure.
Sorry for that. You were really choppy. It was difficult to understand you.
Ellen, is that better there?
Yeah, that's a lot better. Thanks.
Okay. Do you want me to go back? Is there any particular area that it kind of cut out?
If you could scooch back, just probably whatever your thought was. Easier said than done, probably.
I was kind of closing out with we really just need to look at where we're measuring, and we need to understand why we're measuring where we are and determine whether or not we need to make adjustments to how we're measuring, and think strategically, assess what the priorities are today, determine if the priorities have shifted and changed, and consider opt-in where opt-in hasn't necessarily been in place before to really support those areas of the site that are seeing a significant amount of traffic, and then use that opt-in, use your surveys in general, once again, as a way to redirect and inform and help manage those expectations. So let's take that, one step further and talk about it from how do we connect all of this? How do we make sense of all this? How do we manage, whether you have 1,000 responses or pieces of feedback or 140,000 pieces, we've got to figure out how we start pulling it together. We've got a number of different touch points. You may be assessing where you're listening today. You may be moving listening posts around. But at the end of the day, you're probably seeing an increase in feedback, and we need to potentially leverage tools like speech and text analytics to help better understand. We need to look at the opportunities to create alerting, to have logic-based alerts if we're seeing issues on particular pages, or if we're seeing a number of people with their overall experience dropping. We want to have the ability for those alerts to go out. You can leverage the technology to do that today. Many of you are already doing it. But once again, let's strategically think about what the logic and criteria is and determine if we need to adjust it given the times. Distribution lists. If you've got automated reporting and dashboards, who is that going to? We're going to talk about data a little bit more specifically in socializing data, but certainly understand there's a way to automate the data, the alerts, and to get to the right people who need that in-the-moment insight to potentially drive change and improve the experience. At the end of this, Dorothy touched on it, Ellen touched on it. We can't forget about the employee population and what employees are going through in this time. So we've got to look for opportunities where we can provide more of an opportunity to communicate with those employees. For a long time, we've really focused on our measurement tools and applications to understand the customer and visitor experience. But certainly employees are in a different place today than they ever have been before. And we need to be respectful to them and give them an opportunity to express challenges and concerns. Because as we know, at the end of the day, to improve the customer experience, to manage expectations of our customers and visitors, we need our employees working efficiently. And we need to be sensitive to the challenges they're facing moving to the home office environment. I think we've all seen those videos of kids crashing meetings and certainly balancing home life with work life. My daughter has certainly surprised me in a couple meetings as well. It's also been fun to introduce my daughter to the team at times. So let's look for opportunities to try to provide the employees an opportunity to have a voice in this. For those of you on this call, you may not be as invested in the employee side as much, but certainly your HR departments are. we're listening to customers' needs as it relates to better understanding the impact of all of this on employees, and we're creating opportunities to listen. And, if this is something that potentially is of benefit to you for your team, talk to your account team. Talk to them about how we can potentially help. We're putting together free solutions, packages here to help support and create an exchange or a two-way communication for employees. And once again, at the end of this, we have to understand that this, one, helps your employees, but two, is going to help your customers, help your visitors, and collectively, all of this together is going to try to provide the best experience and possible. So let's not forget, certainly, the employees' piece of that.
So Eli, on this, we've actually had a great question come in from Kathleen. She works at California Franchise Tax Board, asking, she's asked for leaders to issue an employee survey, and they're eager to, but they don't know what to ask, especially if a problem is surfaced that they don't have a solution for. So they're understandably a little bit cautious about asking for that feedback and possibly not having a solution. So I guess kind of two parts. Do you know what are some good starting questions to ask, and then also what to do in that situation?
Yeah, so I think to a certain degree, this kind of feeds well into the next section, which there's a component of things right now that is simply let's work on being transparent and sharing data often. I think we all understand we're in unprecedented times, and we don't necessarily know the right questions to be asking right now. And I think to a certain degree, the survey might start as just another opportunity for an open line of communication to capture feedback. Maybe it's an open end, and maybe it's as simple as, how are you doing? Maybe it's on a scale of 1 to 10. Do you feel like you're effective with your day-to-day jobs as much at home as you were in the office? I don't think we have to overthink or over-engineer. And at the same time, I also don't think we necessarily have to worry as much about uncovering something we don't have the ability to support today. That's the reality. We're all trying to figure this out on many different levels, what this means. So simply asking the question, asking for feedback from your employees, and be transparent. If you get 35% of the population that uncovers an issue that you don't have a solution for today, I think that's okay. But say we're working on it. Say we're listening. I think that a lot of what this is managing expectations and giving people a voice, and acknowledging the fact that we don't have it all figured out, but we're going to collectively work through this together. And that same logic applies to customers and visitors to your site as well as employees.
Yeah, Dorothy, did you have anything to add? I know you work with tons of clients.
Yeah, I think sometimes, we overthink it, and really just opening the lines of communication, I think, is key. They want to be heard, and keep it simple. It doesn't have to be a long survey. You don't have to ask all the questions and get all the answers. You hit it right on the nail on the head there, Eli. Open-ended with like a rating. We do also offer some sample templates that we've worked with our internal HR team. So we do have some surveys created that you could take a look at. Does it make sense? Do you want to ask questions that are really related to work from home scenarios? Like, is your monitor in place? How's the Wi-Fi? It could be simple questions like that. Do they have the tools to get the job done? Those might be simpler to solve than maybe some of the other things that come up. But definitely we can help with that as well. Happy to share what we've learned and what we have.
Yeah, and just to draw everyone's attention back to the slide that's in front of you, this free solution that we're able to offer you right now also comes with a set of recommended questions template, kind of somewhere that you can at least start, and then as you learn what your audience, what your employees are asking, adjust from there.
Exactly. Yeah.
One of the questions you won't see in the template that I asked my team this week was, what was your favorite 80s movie? So, how fun would it be to capture, you throw up a question like that and share that with internally. So it doesn't always have to be, how are we managing in this moment? Let's let's be creative. Let's have some fun. Let's get people to smile and laugh.
Yeah,
as well.
perfect.
So let's kind of wrap up this section, because I think the next section really continues to once again build. So think strategically. Assess your CX, your VOC goals, your experience management goals. Understand that where we are with this is really about insights for in the moment, and how to prioritize your actions today to have immediate results in a very fluid situation. And so once again, the transition here is, you've got all this data. What do you do with it? What's the plan? What are some best practice components to this? It starts with sharing data often and transparently. We've talked about this a little bit. It also is about getting the right data to the right people to drive the change. So, what is the strategy internally for socializing? I know many of you have a socialization plan that you've been using probably for some time, or hopefully you do. Once again, it starts with asking the question, does it need to change? You're probably not as concerned with month over month or quarter over quarter trending of satisfaction. It might be daily now. It might be looking more at task accomplishment than overall satisfaction. So think about what the data is that needs to be shared, and who you need to get it to. And then once again, like we talked about with employees in terms of the transparency, it's okay if we capture information that we don't have a solution for today, but let's communicate that. And think about opportunities of being able to say to your customers, we listened to you. We heard you say you needed this, and we've created it, or we're working on it, and we hope to have it, in 2 weeks. Please check back. I think that once again, everybody is trying to figure this out. So there's nothing wrong with saying we don't have all the answers, but it's great to say that we're working on it and we're listening, and we're gonna do everything we can to have a solution in place as quickly as possible. So I'm gonna pass it back to Dorothy here.
Sorry, I'm going to jump in with a question real fast, one that I think it backs us up a little bit higher, but it's an important piece, which is, so if you had an audience that is not that involved in your VOC to begin with, and your stats here, how do you get them to care in a normal circumstance, let alone right now? Do either of you have some tips on kind of getting that initial buy-in from other internal teams? Yeah, I mean,
for me, there's a lot of stories in the data today. I think to a certain degree, it's find the story in the data, let your customers, let your visitors tell the story. If you're an existing Verint customer, leverage your account team, leverage us to help you find and uncover that story that's going to resonate. If you can connect it to a KPI, if you can connect it to likelihood to purchase, if you can connect it to likelihood to return, certainly that might create more of an interest. If you show what the ROI is relating to that particular experience or that particular segment, that certainly can have an impact. Dorothy, anything you would want to add?
No, no, that's great. I think the ROI and KPI connections are really strong and imperative. And I'm just thinking, if it's a new channel, maybe that you're collecting on, and a new team that isn't, familiar with VOC and the data that you're collecting, engage them right from the start and say, we think this is an important channel to start listening on now, this touch point, especially during this time. What are the key informational pieces that you want to know from our clients as it pertains to your area of expertise, and let them own it, have them be part of it, engage them in the conversation. And, I've had clients that have, added opt-in or other implementations for new teams. And, initially they were kind of shy to the data, and then they just jumped right in. So again, keep it simple and engage the team right from the start.
Great.
I
Thanks,
got
both.
one more for you, Ellen. I got one more for you. Give your CEO a question. Like give somebody that's having trouble believing in the benefit and the power of feedback from your customers or visitors. Give them a question. Put it up there for 3 weeks. Take it down. Put up another one. But I think there's a lot of ways that you can creatively get them interested and get their attention.
So you mean like give them space on your survey for something that they're personally interested in?
Yeah, absolutely.
Smart. Great. Well, thank you both for answering that. I know that was a bit higher level than we were going to go today, so I'll let you go back to it.
So I'll talk to the next couple of slides here, and really it's just a visual for you to start to think around the concept of shared data often and transparently. So we've got this great data coming in, and right now it's more important than ever to collect the data, analyze the data, and share it. And we've touched on it. Be transparent, really engage all the teams that you need to share the data with. So, what's coming in? How do you segment it? What are the customer struggles, and who can help you action those items to alleviate those struggles? So a couple of visuals here. Not everyone's got the same tool set that's on this call, but utilize what is in your portals, what tool sets you have. If you've got session replay, if you've got Adobe and you're trying to integrate data sets, those are also really powerful stories when you connect that with other feedback sources. So look at your heat maps, look at your theme clusters. Obviously this is obvious, but the larger the theme cluster and the more negatively rated it is, start there. Make sure that, you can highlight to your teams when you're sharing the data, here are the top 3 pain points. Here are the top 3 pages where customers are having struggles. Here's some examples of comments that have come through. If you can provide a trending map showing a dip in satisfaction levels, share that. Keep it, if you can, short and sweet, but really to the point, and really try and help them close the loop. So you're gathering data, you're analyzing it, now you're going to share it. But why are you sharing it? Obviously to grow their knowledge around what customers are saying, but you're really wanting to close the loop on a lot of things. And as Eli said, you may not be able to close the loop right away. It might be something that's you can fix in the next release from a break fix situation. Or is it something that's just content that can be changed, within a couple of days? So really start to pull the visuals, the analytics behind what you're asking teams to do, and have them pivot accordingly to what's prioritized and, depending on how strategies changed. And then, of course, share it out. So whether you've got case management, whether you've got triggers, whether you have alerts, whether it's, a weekly email or by, every second day, like whatever resources you have, use them. Again, come to us for help around best practices, services, whatever you need. We'll try and think out of the box because maybe it's not obvious right out of the gate. So we're here to help. And again, use what you can and make it digestible, make it understandable for the teams that you're sharing with. Anything to add from either of you guys, or we're good? So let's take a look at the benefits. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we're good. Okay.
No, go ahead. I think you go here. I'll add something after this slide.
Okay, great. We did practice, honestly, guys. So really, what are the benefits here? Again, it comes up time and time again. You're improving your expectation management. So your employees and your customers know what to expect. You may not have all the answers. The timelines for fixes or moving things forward may not be what they are expecting, but at least manage it and communicate it out. A key, reduce contact center calls. If you can drive your customers and employees to a digital knowledge page or hub or information or self-service on the digital resources that you have, do it. Alleviate those poor people that are answering calls. And let customers and employees really know that they're being listened to. They're being informed on a regular daily basis or weekly, whatever the timing is for changes and updates. And I think a really, really important key thing here is, as a takeaway, help your organization act with a unified message, whether it's call center, people that are emailing customers, conversations that are happening offline. Make sure the message is unified, make sure they understand it, and really drive it home. That's it. Oh, let's
Great.
just do a quick recap, Eli.
Yeah, let me try to bring all this together. So we went through kind of these three parts, three pillars. There's an overlying component to all of this. Let's not forget our employees. Let's not forget to figure out how we're listening, allowing them an opportunity to provide feedback, because they certainly have a lot to say in this time. They're adjusting to a lot. They also certainly are the key in many ways to improving the experience for our visitors and customers. You also have to understand you can't just do one of these. The success of this is based on all three pieces. If you're gonna amplify your digital resources, you got to make sure you're figuring out how you're connecting that to all the other touch points, all the areas of feedback that are coming in. And then you also obviously have to figure out how to share that effectively and transparently. The final piece of advice I would give you guys is you're not alone with this. Leverage us, leverage your account team. This is not anything necessarily new. We've been working on this. We've been doing this. We might be helping you to adjust your strategy and your focus, but as it relates to CX and VOC and experience management, we're revisiting best practices and trying to get everybody to double down on those best practices today. It's not like we're reinventing what we're trying to do here. And then also leverage each other. We in public sector does, I think, a great job of this, which is reaching out to others in the industry, others in the space. If you've got something that's working, don't hesitate to share it. And then once again, like I said, we've got a team here that's dedicated to support you. And please, by all means, reach out, ask questions, look for guidance, look for advice. We can certainly provide insight and help you determine the strategy that's best for you given these times.
Exactly. Thanks, Eli.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect summary, Eli, of what we've talked about today. That's the content that we had prepared for everyone today. So it's definitely open at this point for some Q&A. Did want to remind everyone that if you want to grab PDF of our slides, and also I think I've got a couple other resources for you, some blog posts, another PDF in the resources panel. So be sure to grab those before you head out today. So if you've got questions, now is the time to send them in. We do actually have one, Eli, that I'm going to challenge you to answer. It's a question specifically for CX crisis within the government sector. So what is important to communicate to citizens right now? What is important to try to make sure is at the top of your list? But I would bet that if it's important for the citizen website, it's important for everybody else. So kind of putting you on the spot there, it's a pretty big question, but yeah, just kind of looking to understand what should you be communicating? What's top of there?
Wow. Yeah, that is a big question, Alan. Thank you.
Glad that went to you, Eli.
I know. I've been saving it. It came in pretty early, so I saved it for the very end.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if this is a cop-out or not, but I think the answer is think about what your role in this is. Think about, if you're in the public sector, if you're a program office or an agency or a department, make sure you're clearly defining for your visitors what your role is and what you're here to do and provide in these times. And I don't think that's necessarily anything different than what we would say for private sector. Let's be transparent with what we're doing to help our customers, our visitors today. I've received more communications from companies than I ever have been before. And while I'll be honest, I haven't read every single one, it's refreshing to know that everybody's thinking and trying to position what their role is in this. So if I need it today or if I need it tomorrow, there's a pretty good chance something's out there that helps me provide perspective on maybe a retail site. Maybe it's with a government agency. If I go there, I want to know specifically what you're doing for me in this time.
Great. Thanks. And we'll be sure to connect you as well. Anybody who wants to talk further, be sure to connect. I know up on the screen, we've got Eli and Dorothy's emails. So reach out if you've got further questions for either of them. We just had one other question come in so far, and it's a doozy if you guys are ready. What is your favorite 80s movie?
Oh, jeez.
Thanks,
Eli, for cleaning that up.
Right. Thanks so much, Eli.
Yeah. So I did say to my team when it was my turn to share, it sometimes depends on the day and what's going on. So this week, my answer to my favorite 80s movie was Back to the Future. So
very good.
There's a lot of great options in the 80s. So, but I'll stick with this week's answer of Back to the Future.
Great answer. We've seen the whole series more than once in this house too, so that's great. Geez, that's a great question. So, I like the whole series, St. Elmo's Fire, Breakfast Club, that whole genre. Great music, great soundtracks that we still listen to on repeat in this house. We're a big 80s music family. So I'm going to say for today, as you said, Eli, it may change tomorrow, but those would be my picks.
Very good. I'm going to have a huge cop-out here and just claim I'm only barely old enough to have a favorite 80s movie that I would have watched in the 80s.
Hey, what about reruns? Come on.
I don't know. I should have seen so many, and I just haven't. So I want to say I've looked it up before, and The Little Mermaid was in the 80s, and if not, it might be Beauty and the Beast. So whatever Disney put out somewhere in the late 80s.
Good choice.
Is what I'm going to have to go with here. So it looks like we also had someone else volunteer that theirs was The Big Chill. So,
oh yeah,
Big
great.
Chill.
Ferris
Day Off.
Yeah.
I would like. Okay, that's a good one too. I've seen that one at least.
Yeah, that's a fave here too.
But great. Well, okay. Thank you again, both of you. I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this up.
Thanks, everybody.
10 minutes early. Everyone, I'm sure, appreciates an extra 10 minutes to, gather yourself together before your next meeting, whatever that might look like. So we had a great attendees, some great questions come in. As I've seen, please be sure to reach out. Oh, someone else just came in with The Princess Bride. All right, I'm changing my answer. Thank you, Armando, for saving me. Princess Bride, definitely top of my list for those. Anyway, thank you guys so much. Hopefully we've added a little bit of clarity and some direction to what is currently a relatively uncertain time. We're here for you. As Eli said, reach out to us. We're here to help you navigate whatever your customers might be asking for you as you listen through those VOC channels. So reach out to everybody right now. It's important to stay connected. So much for exactly. So thanks both, Dorothy, Eli. I know we pulled this together as well, but you guys are such pros. This is basically just off the top of your head. So hopefully everybody has very safe and healthy next few days, weeks. Who knows? So
thanks, Ellen.
Thank you guys, and thanks everyone for joining us today.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.